In the grand kingdom of Eldoria, nestled between shimmering mountains and vast emerald forests, lived Princess Ilara. Her home was a magnificent castle, with towering spires that scraped the clouds and gardens so beautiful they seemed painted by the gods. But despite all this splendor, Princess Ilara was lonely. Her parents, the king and queen, were kind, but often busy with royal duties. The castle staff were always respectful, but never truly friends. Ilara spent her days wandering the long, echoing halls, her only companions the portraits of her ancestors, whose stern eyes seemed to follow her every move. She longed for a friend, someone to share secrets with, someone to laugh with, someone who wouldn't just see a princess but see her. One sunny afternoon, while exploring a dusty, forgotten corner of the royal library, Ilara stumbled upon a very old, leather-bound book. Its pages were brittle with age, and the script was a swirling, ancient form of writing she'd never seen before. As she traced a particularly intricate drawing of a whimsical, dragon-like creature, she felt a strange warmth spread from her fingertips. She whispered the words written beneath the image, not knowing what they meant. Suddenly, the air beside her shimmered, like heat rising from a summer road. A soft, warm puff of air brushed against her cheek, followed by a playful, invisible nudge. Ilara gasped, looking around the empty room. "Who's there?" she whispered, her heart thumping. That happy purring sound, like a giant, contented cat, rumbled right next to her ear. She couldn't see anything, but she could feel a presence, a friendly, curious, and very real presence. She reached out her hand into the empty air and felt something soft and furry brush against her palm. A wave of pure joy washed over her. She named him Barnaby. From that day on, Ilara was never alone. Barnaby was the perfect friend. He was mischievous and playful, but also gentle and comforting. Though no one else could see him, Ilara knew him as well as she knew her own reflection. He had soft, downy fur, floppy ears that tickled her when he nuzzled her neck, and a long, swishy tail that would often knock over carefully arranged chess pieces, much to Ilara's amusement. They spent their days exploring the castle grounds. Barnaby would chase butterflies in the royal gardens, his invisible form a whirlwind of rustling leaves and startled petals. They'd have secret picnics by the whispering stream, where Ilara would share her apple slices, watching as they vanished mid-air into Barnaby's happy mouth. He would curl up at the foot of her bed at night, his steady, invisible breathing a soothing lullaby. For the first time, the grand castle felt like a home, filled with laughter and shared secrets. The servants would often find Princess Ilara giggling to herself in an empty hallway or talking animatedly to the air, and they would shake their heads, whispering about the lonely princess and her imaginary friend. But Ilara didn't care. Barnaby was real to her, and that was all that mattered. Their bond was their own special secret, a magical world just for the two of them. One year, a great festival was planned in Eldoria to celebrate a century of peace. People from all corners of the kingdom and beyond were invited. The highlight of the festival was to be the grand unveiling of the Starstone of Eldoria, a legendary gem said to hold the kingdom's luck and prosperity. It was kept in a specially crafted, multi-locked glass case in the center of the grand ballroom. The king and queen entrusted the final master key to Princess Ilara, a symbol of her growing responsibility. The night of the festival, the castle was ablaze with lights and music. Ilara, dressed in a gown the color of twilight, felt a flutter of nerves. Barnaby, sensing her anxiety, gave her a reassuring invisible lick on the hand. As the moment for the unveiling approached, the royal jeweler, a stern man named Master Valerius, stepped forward to open the case. He unlocked the first two locks with a flourish. Then it was Ilara's turn. With trembling hands, she inserted the master key into the final lock. She turned it, but instead of a smooth click, there was a horrifying grinding noise, followed by a loud snap. The key had broken off inside the lock. A wave of gasps swept through the ballroom. The music screeched to a halt. Master Valerius went pale. "The lock is jammed," he cried. "The key is broken. The Starstone is trapped." Panic began to ripple through the crowd. The king and queen looked on with grave concern. This was a terrible omen. The festival, meant to celebrate peace, was on the verge of becoming a disaster. Ilara felt 100 pairs of eyes on her, filled with disappointment and blame. Tears welled in her own eyes as shame and fear washed over her. She had failed. Just as despair threatened to swallow her whole, she felt a familiar, soft nudge against her arm. Barnaby. He let out a low, concerned rumble, and Ilara looked down at the lock. She remembered Barnaby's cleverness, how he could wiggle through the tiniest of gaps, how his invisible form allowed him to go where no one else could. An idea, wild and desperate, sparked in her mind. It was a huge risk. She would have to reveal her secret. But to save the festival, to save her kingdom's honor, she had to try. Taking a deep breath, Ilara faced the silent, watching crowd. "I can get it open," she announced, her voice shaking but clear. Master Valerius scoffed. "Impossible, Princess. The mechanism is delicate. It would take a master locksmith weeks." Ilara ignored him, turning to her parents. "Please trust me." The king, seeing the desperate plea in his daughter's eyes, nodded slowly. Ilara knelt before the glass case. "Barnaby," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I need your help. The little piece of metal inside the hole. Can you push it out from the other side?" The crowd murmured in confusion, watching the princess speak to thin air. Ilara closed her eyes, focusing all her hope on her invisible friend. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a tiny metallic clinking sound was heard. It was faint, but in the silent room, it was as loud as a drumbeat. Another clink, and then, with a soft tink, the broken tip of the key shot out of the lock and landed on the velvet cushion below. A collective gasp of astonishment filled the hall. Master Valerius stared, his mouth agape. He quickly produced a spare key, and with a smooth click, the final lock opened. The case was opened, and the starstone of Eldoria glittered under the lights, more brilliant than ever. The ballroom erupted in cheers. The king and queen rushed to Ilara, their faces filled with relief and pride. "How did you do that, my dear?" the queen asked, her voice full of wonder. Ilara smiled, a real, radiant smile. It was time. "I had help," she said, reaching out her hand to the empty air beside her. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet my best friend, Barnaby." She gently stroked the air, and as she did, a faint, magical shimmer appeared. The air began to sparkle and coalesce, and slowly, an outline formed. The shimmering dust revealed a creature with soft, downy fur, floppy ears, and a long, swishy tail that wagged with joy. Barnaby, finally visible to all, let out a happy, rumbling purr that echoed through the hall. The crowd stared in awe, not with fear but with wonder. The king laughed, a deep, hearty sound. An invisible, magical creature, a guardian for our princess. From that day forward, Barnaby was no longer a secret. He became the beloved royal companion of Eldoria, celebrated for his bravery and loyalty. He and Ilara were inseparable, their friendship a symbol of the magic that can be found in the most unexpected places. Princess Ilara was never lonely again, for she had shown her kingdom and herself that the truest friendships are not always the ones you can see, but the ones you can feel in your heart. Thank you so much for watching our story today. If you enjoyed the magical tale of Ilara and Barnaby, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more enchanting adventures. See you next time.